I used to think of myself as secure. Looking back at that time, though, I was actually pretty avoidant. Then I met the love of my life, and poof, all that security and confidence went out of the window. My avoidant partner turned me into an anxious mess. I know some of you are in the same boat. You're used to being relaxed and confident. Maybe you're even the one in control in most situations in your life. Yet, when it comes to your avoidant partner, all your confidence evaporates. Do avoidants make people anxious? Attachment theory, originally proposed by John Bowlby and later expanded by Mary Ainsworth, examined the relationships between infants and their parents. The idea being that our attachment style is formed in those early years. But enough of you have described feeling secure or being the avoidant one in every previous relationship, and yet now suddenly you find yourself doing and feeling everything someone with an anxious attachment style would. How is this possible? Does dating an avoidant automatically make you anxious? Can you resist it? And if you do they become less avoidant? Hi, I'm Carolina. I used to be stuck deep in the anxious avoidant trap, but I got out. Now I run this channel with my formerly avoidant husband, teaching others how to fix their relationships. In this video, I'll answer all the questions I just asked. I'll explain the real impact an avoidant partner can have on your own attachment style and what you can do about it. They say the right person brings out the best in you. That's exactly what happened when Gabriel and I first got together. Suddenly, I felt more comfortable in my own body. I started standing my ground with people in a way I never had before. And a lot of my old insecurities just started melting away. I'm sure a lot of you experienced this too. The early months built you up, energized you, made you feel excited. And then you started bringing out the worst in each other. Yes, avoidants tend to make their partners anxious. But how do they do it? Here are a couple of examples. First and foremost, an avoidant partner will make you anxious by being inconsistent. They'll be warm and affectionate one day and then cold and unavailable the next, so you'll never know what to expect. They might be chatty, texting you enthusiastically on a Monday, and then need 5 hours to respond to you on a Tuesday. They'll make plans with you, but then suddenly cancel and not reschedule. But then they'll come back in full swing a few days later. This kind of treatment brings up anxiety in basically everyone. Why? Because the rules of the game keep changing and you never know what to expect. So naturally, all your insecurities get activated and you get overrun by doubts and fears. Your secure attachment gets undermined bit by bit. So, inconsistency is one of the ways avoidants make their partners anxious. A second big thing that tends to come hand in hand with this behavior is unclear communication. Imagine your partner pulled away, but they said to you, "Look, I know I'm distant and unavailable. It's just for now, I'm frustrated with my job, but I don't want to talk or do anything about it. I just want to sit in a dark room and doom scroll TikTok for a few days. I know it's unhealthy. I know it will only make me feel worse, but I'm going to do it anyway. And if you try texting me, I will not respond because I'll be too busy feeling sorry for myself." Avoidants are never dishonest. Why? Because they're trying to keep up a facade. They don't want you to think less of them. So they hide their own bad habits or problems. They believe you'd leave them if they showed you their true self. That's why they intentionally keep things vague and stop communicating. And of course, this brings up your insecurities too. You fill in the blanks and start asking, did I do something? Is he or she upset with me? Here's another avoidant habit that causes their partners to become anxious. Avoidants will blame you for everything. Their bad mood? It's because you talk too much. They didn't tell you anything? It's because you never asked. Or because you ask too much. You're too controlling. Avoidants always want to come out on top. So they twist the truth, get defensive, shoot you down, dismiss or judge your needs. They'll do whatever it takes to make you feel like you're the problem. Why? Because they're this scared of you. And when you stand your ground and dare to insist on what you want or need, they'll just shoot back with their ultimate weapon. They'll say, I can't give you what you want. And this brings me to the last avoidant quality that drives their partners toward becoming anxious. Avoidants always have one foot out of the door. They're seemingly unattached. They act as though losing you wouldn't impact them all that much, as though they don't need you and wouldn't care if you left. They sometimes even say things like, you deserve better, or you should see other people. They treat you as though you were replaceable, and that is bound to erode your sense of security sooner rather than later. I could go on forever pointing out more and more avoidant flaws, but I don't want to demonize anyone. I want to give you solutions because you have the power to do something about this. How do you resist these avoidant behaviors so that they don't make you anxious? We'll now go over these bad habits one by one, and I'll give you a strategy to counter them all, starting with avoidant inconsistency. Sadly, the number one roadblock standing in the way of overcoming the impact your avoidance inconsistent behavior has on you is your unconditional love. You're quick to forgive and forget, you're endlessly giving, and you accidentally end up rewarding all the wrong things. I recently visited one of my aunts. She has a super cute corgi who always barks at her guests. When we're talking, she has to keep giving him treats so that he isn't barking. And guess what? Smart guy knows to keep barking all evening long. Anxious people do the same with avoidance. They're always quick to be loving, caring, forgiving, unfortunately, often reinforcing and rewarding bad behaviors. If you want your avoidant to stop making you anxious, you need to learn to notice and respect your own boundaries and then reinforce them. That's the antidote. Their choices and behaviors need to result in consequences. If your avoidant flakes on you, don't be all chirpy the moment they get back in touch. If they let you down, don't brush it off as though it wasn't a big deal. You deserve better, and it's not okay for them to treat you this way. You need to learn how to have boundaries, and your avoidant partner can indirectly help you with this. So, the second avoidant behavior that turns their partners anxious is unclear communication. You see, avoidants are intentionally vague. They often hint instead of expressing. For example, when you want to do something and they're not in the mood, they won't reply and then pretend to have only seen the message when it was already too late. Silence is their subtle way of saying no. They also don't want to upset you by being too direct, so they try to soften the blow this way. They hope you'll read between the lines and take the hint. If an avoidant isn't responding, it means they don't want to talk. If they're not initiating anything, it means they don't want to do things with you. When they're curt in their responses, it means they don't want to open up. Instead of taking it personally, learn and observe. These are all subtle ways of setting boundaries. Interpersonal communication doesn't just consist of spoken words. It's the multitude of gestures, tones, and reactions. When you start communicating the way they do, taking their hint, and not masking your disappointment, but expressing it equally subtly, you'll have much higher chances of making them apologetic or getting them to come your way. For example, when an avoidant said they'll call you and never did, but ended up texting you 2 days later, don't respond right away. Maybe leave them on red for a few hours or even wait till they double text. This is how you subtly show them that ghosting you this way is not cool. If it is still early and your anxious avoidant dynamic is still fresh, you're very likely to extract an apology this way. Speaking of apologies, this brings me to the next avoidant habit that makes their partners anxious: excessive blame. There are two types of people in the world: the ones who blame themselves for everything, and the ones who blame everyone but themselves. And guess what? Neither of these extremes is healthy or accurate. In most situations, the blame is on both sides. Avoidance might make you anxious, but your anxiety is also making them avoidant. When one person isn't communicating, the other will have the tendency to override boundaries and try to make them talk. Reframing every one of our conflicts this way was an absolute game changer for our relationship. Instead of shifting blame, we both learned to admit we're part of the problem, which also meant we're both part of the solution. Don't let your avoidant make you feel like everything's your fault. Don't blame it all on them either. You have your needs, they have theirs. It's about finding a middle ground that could work for both of you. The amount of communication that feels like enough for you and not too much for them. A way of conveying things that's direct enough, but not too pushy. Plans that make you feel satisfied without the avoidant feeling too pressured into doing things. You should be working towards being a good team, not fighting as though you're each other's opponents. I know this is hard because avoidants often don't think of their partners as being on their side. That's one of the big reasons why they claim to always have one foot out of the door. Yes, that's the last point I wanted to make. You see, the real reason avoidants are this way, why they want to keep their options open, isn't that you're somehow not enough or that your connection isn't special and doesn't matter to them. Avoidants just have massive trust issues, and they're like this with everyone. They can temporarily be all in during the honeymoon phase, but then things get serious and they start their games. They pretend like they don't care, they play it cool, act indifferent. But it's not because you're replaceable to them. It's because they're so scared of being betrayed and abandoned that they put on this show. And the purpose of it is to make sure you remain hooked. Don't fall for their game. If they're so indifferent, why put on a show? Why make an effort to keep the peace and string you along? If they didn't care, they'd just cut you off and move on. But avoidants almost never do. Why? Because they do get attached. They pine after you from a distance, secretly hoping you won't move on. Don't let their one foot out of the door behaviors make you anxious. See past the facade and the posturing. This is what all these strategies have in common. It's all about seeing and accepting your avoidant partner just the way they are. Don't big them up and blame yourself for their shortcomings. Don't demonize them and think of yourself as a victim either. In 99% of cases, your avoidant is just doing their best. They're not even aware that they're playing games with you, but they're secretly hoping you'll somehow get their hints and see them for who they are: troubled, scared, self defeating at times, but also just desperate to connect in a deep, authentic way. Getting an avoidant to break out of their patterns requires you to change your own behaviors too. Anxious avoidant trap is a dynamic you both contribute to, and there is a lot you can do to change it. If you recognize yourself in what I just described, you don't have to figure this out alone. This is exactly what Gabriel and I worked through inside Attach and Avoidant: how to set boundaries without pushing your avoidant further away, how to read their subtle communication instead of spiraling over silence, and how to stop the blame cycle that keeps both of you stuck. If you want real support putting these strategies into practice, I'll leave the link below. The more you understand your avoidant partner, the less power their behavior has over you. If you want more tips on how to make an avoidant change their mind, check out my other video here.